All right, we're going to take a look at SoftChalk Cloud for our independent tool choice here. And we're actually going to break this up into several different videos because there's a lot of different things that's going on and a lot of people like to use it for as part of this course. I do think it's an excellent tool to use, to know how to use, to have in your repertoire for online learning, even more so than some of those more lightweight tools like a Nearpod or Flipgrid or whatever the case is. You can use those tools really well. They're very easy and quick to use. But SoftChalk Cloud is going to give you a lot of versatility to build content, significant amount of content. And when you get talking about online learning, this is a good way to go and do that. Typically when we help teachers kind of traverse the mountain of becoming an instructional designer, we oftentimes talk about just starting with kind of, getting to know the basic LMS of how to put stuff online. And then we talk about kind of some simpler, tools for content development, mainly Google Drive. Then we really talk about video production, because video production can be done at a pretty, a nice way, and it doesn't take a lot of work to go and to do that. But to get to it so that it's really interactive and has a lot of places where you can connect, like links and other resources and sidebar information and contextual information, all of those things, you need to kind of move up to more of a text-based lesson, and this goes beyond what Google Drive can provide. And SoftChalk can provide that. So if you are engaging in SoftChalk for the first time in your OLLI 101 course, you're probably not going to have the opportunity to do everything that SoftChalk can provide here because there's just so much in there. So I always encourage people just to start off simple. Think about just kind of creating a very simple lesson, just a lot of text. You can dabble a little bit in some of the interactives, and we'll look at those features as we go throughout this video series. So this first video, we're going to just take an overview for what SoftChalk Cloud is, kind of the website and how to get started with it, and then we'll break it down into its content tools, its assessment tools, its interactivity tools, and any other management tools like LTI and other things like that. All right, when you go to softchalkcloud.com, you can see I am already logged in, but if you were not, you could click here to create an account. It also, on the front page, it will talk about with directions of how to get started. You can click on that, and again, you can go there. One of the things that's required, this is not a free product. There is a cost for it. Now, it is free for Iowa teachers because the AEAs have a license. So what you can do is you have two options. You can either go and get a free account on the system. It's a 30-day free trial, which is down below. Okay, you can either get that up front and start using it right away, and then tell us what account you created, what's your username and email, and we'll go in and apply the license key for that. Or you can just tell us you want an account, and then we'll create it for you. And the way to do that is you're going to go to, and I'm going to type it in so you can see this here, bit.ly. If I zoom in on that, and I can't, bit.ly/SoftChalkCloud, bit.ly/SoftChalkCloud. And I go there, and it's going to go to a Google form. And on here, there is some what looks like legal information here. It talks about this. And it does have this statement here that sometimes has questions. AEA Learning Online reserves the right to reclaim access to an account if any of these happen under our license. And the reason why is more to protect us. It isn't really like to take over someone's content or anything. We have no interest in doing that whatsoever. But if, for example, someone gets an AEA Learning Online licensed SoftChalk account and then manages to simply just copy somebody else's text or whatever, maybe like, all of the Harry Potter book, they just copy all the text and they put it onto a SoftChalk Cloud and say, haha, now we don't have to buy books. They can just, go and read the SoftChalk Cloud. Okay, that's a copyright violation. That would come back on AEA Learning Online because we are the ones that hold the account. So we reserve the right to be able to get in, obviously, and take down that particular lesson. If there are accounts that are no longer being used, we have this occasionally, where teachers will change districts and they don't update their account information, or they get a second account. Well, then we'll go back into the first account and such, and we will, again, we'll take that over. We also, while we have a statewide account and it's not really limited per se, there are a little bit of limits in terms of size and bandwidth and some things that we have. We're not too worried about them, but we do reserve the right that if accounts are not being used at all, not only the person has not logged in, but anything that they've built has never been accessed within 12 months, that we could go back in and eliminate that account. This would be, we often have people who go through maybe not even an OLLI course, but just kind of a trial SoftChalk course, a workshop or whatever, create the account and then never come back to it. Okay. And then again, yeah, if the person is no longer at an Iowa school or an AEA Learning Online partner, we would reserve the right to take over the account then. Okay. Now, if you are, if the account does get taken over by us, let's say you are no longer at a particular district, you wouldn't have the access to go in and change your content because, again, you wouldn't be an Iowa teacher. Let's say you moved to Hawaii or something like that. But the content you built would actually still be there. It could still be used by people who are using it, your students in your particular school or whatever the case is. That's not going to be taken down under that situation. The only time we take down content is if it's a copyright violation. We also get a lot of questions about, well, is this going to go away? As stated here, we've had this statewide license since 2012, so many years we've had it. We can't, obviously we can never guarantee things will always be around. Prices can change dramatically. The AEAs used to license a product called Discovery Education Streaming, very, very popular until DE Streaming priced themselves out of the market. The AEAs just simply could not afford it anymore, so they switched over to a different product. SoftChalk Cloud, it's not likely that that's going to happen, but obviously we can never say never. And again, you know how important SoftChalk Cloud is to us. We built the entire OLLI series within it. We've done a lot of other things with it. We use it just as much as anybody, probably any of their licensees, period. So we don't see it going anywhere. Now, one thing to note is if in the chance that it does go somewhere, again, your content is still available. So even if your license is no longer valid, what that means is you couldn't go in and edit it, but the content would sit there and still be accessible for people to use, which is always kind of a peace of mind type of thing. All right. So when you come in here, you need to go and fill out this form, and we ask you the first question: did you already create your free 30-day trial, or do you want us to create it here? Either one is fine. If you want us to create it, we're going to create it based on what you've got down below here. Okay? If you've already created it, when you submit it below, we're going to log in as you. We're going to apply the license key. We can't give it out because then we don't have control over that license key. So we have to go in and apply it ourselves. And then you're off and going. So it asks for your name, your email address, your SoftChalk username, and your password. And if you haven't set up your account already, they are very specific about the password. 8 to 20 characters, 1 uppercase, 1 lowercase, 1 number, and 1 special character. So exclamation point, hashtag, whatever the case is. Okay. We do get a lot of people who haven't created an account. They submit it here, a password that we can see is not going to work. So we'll always give it a try, but we'll end up telling them that's not the correct password. Such. Okay. Tell us what school district you're in, and then we ask this, but if you're in the class, I mean, we're already talking to you about SoftChalk Cloud, so whether you check it or not doesn't really matter. Okay, and then you submit it. Now, if you've already created your account and have your 30-day trial, you can start building content immediately. Let's say I don't get to it for 20 days, which has happened on occasion. Not a problem. The content that you've built doesn't go away when you're on your trial period. It stays there. And even if we miss the 30-day trial, your 30 days ended, and then you submitted the form, say 2 months later, and we went in and applied the key, that content you built during the 30-day trial would still be there. So there's not any danger of losing that. Keep on going, utilizing it as you will. Keep on building it. We'll get in and we'll go and update that content. Now, we don't have the largest of help desks out there, and SoftChalk Cloud requests do get pushed down in priority compared to, say, lost password to get into the single sign-on, or I need to upload a transcript right now, or these type of things. So if you don't get to it right away, feel free to email me personally, eabby@aealearningonline.org. Say, hey, I submitted it a couple weeks ago. I haven't seen it yet, saying I only have like 7 days left of the free trial. And I'll get in and I'll go and update that. But don't worry too much, again, if it hasn't been done right away. We'll get to it. It's sitting in our help ticket inbox, and we kind of get through some of those every time. Okay, so that's the process. Either you need to create an account and then fill out the form, or you fill out the form and then we'll create the account. The difference is, if you do the former, you can get started right away, and if you do the latter, you're going to have to wait for us to get it and tell you and then you can get off and going. All right, so once you get logged in, this is what the homepage looks like. A couple things I want to talk about here. First off, I really encourage people to start now by clicking on SoftChalk Share. SoftChalk Share is their own repository that they've got, and they do a pretty good job for what's kind of a below-the-radar type of tool of getting community types of approach and letting people learn from each other. They have kind of an updated feed of content that's come in recently. Hey, Julie Bierman, she is a Iowa teacher right there. So hey, look at that. And they have things like featured lessons of the week, which is really cool. We've had many teachers in Iowa win the featured lessons of the week. It's just an award, sorry, no money in there, but you might win that too. I think that's kind of cool to put on a resume. So if you click on search the repository and you search that, you can actually go in and search different lessons that have been made public for the community. Anybody could look in those. So I could look in here and I can click in Ollie, and all of our Ollie lessons will appear there. If there was, for any reason, some other website out there or teacher who is creating lessons called Ollie, theirs would appear there as well. But obviously, you're not going to go there and look for Ollie. You want to look for, hey, I am a math teacher. Let me see what math course I've got. And I'm at 5th grade, so let me kind of do 4, 5, 6 and see what we've got there. And if a person, when they fill out the, I need to search for something here. I'll just say math. If the designer, when they built the module, filled out the information correctly, and that's a big if, because there's nothing saying they have to mark it as 5th grade or whatever the case is. Sometimes they just click, the first one that's on the list. But if they've marked it correctly, it makes it very easy to go in and find. So you can say, okay, here's a lesson on standard notation. Here's a lesson on the Pythagorean theorem. Here's a lesson on subtraction. Okay. Now, the value might vary when you get in there. All right. So you can see what they've done. Very simple lesson. Looks like 5 pages long. Got a table of contents in here. So go in, objectives, and so forth. Okay, this is an older lesson. Hasn't been updated in a while. It's running on Adobe Flash here. So I have Flash kind of disabled by default on here, although I can click it and enable it. We'll allow it on the site, and then it should run. Okay, yep. And so this is an interactive, and it asks, this is what's called a flip card interactive. So it asks you a question. You can think about it yourself, and then you can click here to show the answer. And just one time, because after you subtract it one time, it's no longer subtracting it from 32. So trick the students. Okay. And so forth. Okay, so you might look at that and say, I'm looking at this, I'm not very impressed with this particular lesson. It probably serves a need for that particular teacher, but in terms of general content on subtraction, maybe not as much. But if it is something that you do like, you can come down here and you've got a couple of choices. You can go and grab the link to it and put that link right within your learning management system. Voila, you just created a lesson, and even though you didn't do anything. By the way, look, we're on version 11, and this was created with version 7, so that it is a fairly old one. 2011 was when that was created. So it tells you here kind of some good information of how old the particular training is and how often it gets updated. So if you wanted to put it on a page in your learning management system and then put some text, you can embed it just like a YouTube video. And if you're kind of slick with embed code, you can see where you can actually go in and change the dimensions to make it look better. The other item you can do as well is you can come in here and you can copy this particular lesson to your own. I'm going to go ahead and do that here. So I'm going to click copy lesson to my content, and we'll let that come up. And then when I do, it's right here in my inbox. Now, I haven't shown your inbox yet, so we had homepage, we had SoftChalk share. Under my content, we've got lots of different pieces here. The one that, for most part, people have been working on has been lessons. About 99% of my activity is in lessons. I don't do a lot with these other ones. I'm starting to do more with learning objects, and I'll explain what that is here in a little bit. But lessons here, and I've got lots and lots and lots of lessons, can be put into different categories. Okay, so I have an Ollie category, I have a Molly category. Actually, some other individual, one of our instructional designers, created a Molly category and then shared it with me, so I see hers. I see our personalized learning stuff. I see our OER stuff. I've got many, many different folders. And again, you can go in and not only create a folder, but then you can share that particular folder with individuals here so that they can have access. So this is a folder we created, Orbis's, Ankeny's, Authentic Learning School. Students go and work on work-based learning projects, and so they're working with A Learning Online as a workplace vendor, and we're actually having them go and create content for us. So these are the students in this category who are building content for me. We created a category for them in there as they create lessons. Those get in there, and I can go in and take a look at those. Okay, you don't have to share lessons in categories, but you can if you'd like. This first category is just kind of a generic spot. It's kind of like the first inbox before you make other mailboxes within your email client. And so you can't share that, but I could move subtraction down to Orbis if I wanted to share it with those Orbis teachers. Okay. You can see here it says subtraction copy. Well, I don't want to call it that. So if I click here to, let me actually click on the copy itself. Okay. And then I click here to edit the lesson properties. I can come in here and say, I'm going to say delete just so I can remember to delete it. But sorry, can't spell. I really can't spell. But I can go in and call it whatever I'd like. And then I can redo the description and all these different things here. Hey, look at this. It says privacy, and you're going to see no access, personal, or public. Okay. And it explains those down below. These are basically the same settings that Google uses for Google Drive or for YouTube. You've got it so that if it's public, that will appear then in the share. Okay. And if it's in the share, great. And again, you can make things public and not necessarily worry about the quality of those type of things. This happens all the time. There are things that are more, is there an item that this teacher is going to use more so than I am? I'm not making a judgment on the quality of this subtraction lesson that this teacher created. I don't even know who the teacher is, okay? Why would that teacher go ahead and put it into public? Well, a couple things. Maybe it is beneficial to other teachers, so why not do it? And I kind of agree with that too. It's a philosophy within teaching and instructional design of share and share alike. The more we share, the more opportunity there is to lessen someone else's load. If she's gone in and already put the time in to create something, even if she might not think it's valuable, maybe it's a good starting point for somebody else, just like me right here. Okay, so that would be one reason to do public. The other reason, more selfishly, is you do have a personal limit on the amount of size that you can have within your lessons. You saw those lessons that I have? There's no way I'd get that into my my account because I only get 2 gigabytes of size in there. Is that right, or is it 2 megabytes of size? I believe it's gigabytes of size. If I go back into it here. Yeah, 2 gigabytes aside. You can see, oh, Evan, you've only used a quarter. How is that possible? Well, that's because I made everything public pretty much. Now, there are a few that I've been kind of playing around with that I haven't made public yet, and that's okay. Those probably will be made public at some point in time. Okay, you're going to see some called Score Center, which I'll talk about later on. And then there's no access right here, and no access means that so personal means it's there. It has a link. You can get to the link for it. Just kind of like an unlisted YouTube video. You can put that on there. You can put the link in your LMS, and your students can get to it. But no one's going to search YouTube and be able to find it. Okay. No access means the link won't even work. The only person who can see it is me, logged in as me in that particular case. And I did that because we have a couple of different copyright lessons. This is the old one. This is the new one. And I think there are some pieces in this old one that I want to keep. Otherwise, I could just delete it if I don't want it. And that would then save against my cap, so to speak here. Okay? So that's a look at the inbox, the lesson inbox, if you will, the place where you can see all of your lessons being created. By the way, if we go back to where we were at here, you do have the ability to put a Creative Commons license on there. Here's where you can go in and identify those keywords that we mentioned, and not only keywords, but subject areas and such, and then you can save that, and that information will make it easier to go and to find it. Okay? All right. With that lesson, in SoftChalk Share, when you're looking at other people's items, you won't see all of these things down below here. When you get into your own that you own and that you have either created or you copied and they're in yours, you're going to see you do have the ability to delete that lesson. You can download that lesson, although you don't normally need to do that. You can make another copy of that lesson, even though I've already owned this one. Here's where you can get your information as before, okay? And then you can come in here and you can edit this lesson. All right, now there's 2 choices here, and I'm going to start with the second one first, edit and create online. And edit and create online is going to allow me to edit this content right here. Now, this became an option in version 10. We never used to be able to do this back in 2011 when this was built. So what it's telling you here is that it's saying this is an older lesson. This was built before online editing became an option. Okay, so for online editing to become an option, it's going to have to be updated to the current version, and that might make it look different. Okay, are you okay with that? I'm okay with it. I'm going to go ahead and click Edit Lesson. But if you're not, okay, then you need to go in and do this. Now, this is an error that you're going to see when doing that, and that's because it's too old. I picked one from version 7. It can't upgrade it that way. So I actually need to edit it the other way to go and do it. And that is, I'm going to go in and edit it in Create. Okay? And before I do that, if I go back here, on the home page, there is a link about installing the application. So remember when I said here I wanted to go and edit it, I could create it online, and I could edit and create. Create is the application. It's a program on the computer that you've got. And it doesn't work on all devices, obviously. So there are some like Chromebooks and things that have had trouble installing it. Mainly a traditional Mac or Windows computer is what you'd need in order to use the app. Right? So to do that, you can click on there, and it gives you directions on how to install it there. It'll kind of look like that. It has changed over time. It used to be green, now it's blue, but it kind of looks like that on your computer. All right. So I have already installed mine, and I'm going to go ahead and click Edit and Create, and that's going to launch it. There it goes. And it actually launches it in, it's kind of a little terminal window right now on my computer. And it goes through and it does this. It's going to do a check for updates. Oh, and well, and it doesn't even support that. That shows you how old it is. So normally what would happen is the lesson would be opened up in here, and then I could go in, I could edit it. So, all right, let me pick a different lesson to show you that process. I'm gonna, let's do this one. We'll do this one. This is another teacher of ours who created a lesson. And I'm going to go ahead and edit that lesson in Create. You can see the look and feel is a little different there. That's a more updated lesson. I think that was built in version, oh, it's already been updated to version 11. So when it opens up, it will often do a check to see is your SoftChalk updated, and mine is already updated, so it didn't show you that. But you might see that. You can skip the updating of your software if you'd like. Okay. All right, we're going to talk about this next step a little bit more in the next video of how you actually build the content. But this is what it looks like. It's a little different editing it in the application than it is editing it online. So you can see here, you got this look and feel. It doesn't show you page by page. What it shows you is kind of a long list, like a Google Doc that goes on forever. And you see there are page breaks and such. Okay. So that's the way it looks and it feels. Now I could do the same thing. I could click here to edit and create online. And this is what that looks like. Still similar kind of scroll, but you can see I'm online. And you have your WYSIWYG tools, which we'll look at when we do that content building. All right, let me go back home. So we looked at the home feature. We looked at the My Content for Lessons. Underneath there was an item called, so you saw personal and no access. There's an item called Score Center. And you might say, what's Score Center? I see it over here too. One of the features you can use in SoftChalk is when you create a lesson, you can put in a lot of different interactivities. I showed you that flip card one. That one doesn't have any points associated with it. You know, a student can't get 1 out of 1 or 3 out of 3 on that particular one. But there are many that do. So like matching activities, maybe multiple choice questions, even things that are more complex, like some sort of ordering activity or a sorting activity, you know, place the objects into the right circle, those type of things. Okay. SoftChalk has about 30 different interactive types you can choose from, and out of those, I think 18 of which have points that are associated with them that can be scored on them. So you could create a lesson with interactives, and those points in those interactives can give the student a score. Now, the score could be totally just, you know, playtime. Hey, just challenge yourself and see what you get. Or the score could actually be a real grade, a real assessment. And if you're going to do that, you'd have to have a way of getting that score into your learning management system. Because if you ask your students, they'll say, oh, I got 30 out of 30. Yes. Well, so you want SoftChalk to keep track of the score and to tell you. Well, SoftChalk's not a learning management system. It doesn't really want to do that. It'll keep track of points as a person's going through, but it doesn't know necessarily student 1 from student 2 from student 3. So the way you set it up is you set up a lesson as what's called an LTI lesson. We'll look at that process with our last video. And you then put that lesson, that link, that LTI link, not the regular link, into your learning management system. So what happens is student A logs into your learning management system. They click on the link. Your learning management system tells SoftChalk, hey, here comes student A. Please give them that lesson. SoftChalk says, gladly. And they give them the lesson. Student A gets maybe 28 out of 30. Then at the end, SoftChalk says 2 things back to the LMS. They say, student A is now done with this lesson, and student A got 28 out of 30. And the LMS says, thank you. I will put that into my gradebook. And that's the way basically LTI works, is it just kind of connects a content provider with the learning management system. So these items right here are set up for that grading activity. They are called score centers, and you can use SoftChalk to keep track of scores outside of an LMS, but we always recommend doing it within an LMS here. So again, we'll show you that. The other thing too to look at is they have other features that you can go in and create. You can take all those interactives that you've made and you can save those separately. So for example, this is an activity called a photo album. It's an interactivity. It's just some people would click through it and they'd get posed a question and they'd say whether it meets them. This is from our course here, Online Learning 101, and it was in in a lesson, but I have taken it and saved it as its own entity, so now I can use it in other SoftChalk lessons. I can just drop it in. So you don't have to do that. You don't have to save all of your interactives separate from your lessons, but then it does make it easier for you to go in and restore those. You can see I've done that quite a bit there too. Okay. In addition to that, you can create polls and have those within your particular lesson, and then it will keep tabs and total. You can see I don't use this very much. I just kind of demoed this at one point in time. You can also go in and set up what's called ratings, where you can ask a person, how would you rate this particular module? And then they would go in and rate it. And then you'd see how many scores you get for that. Okay. And then you can also go in and upload your own files. And I'm doing this more and more because it makes it easier for me to quickly go in and do put pictures in many different lessons. So these are items like an image. It's kind of squashed there, but it really isn't squashed like that. That we use in a lot of different online lessons. And so I just went ahead and uploaded those into SoftChalk, and then I can just click of a button, put them into my lessons there. Okay. All right, so that's where you can go in here. You can use this to create a new lesson straight from here. We'll look at that process again in our next video. There is other information we can attach with your account, like your profile and such. That's not really going to help you with your lesson building or anything like that. And they do have a lot of tutorials on site to get started and support. I used to go ahead and link to a lot of those things, but now I just kind of point people to those and such. So that's an overview of SoftChalk Cloud, the website, getting started with it. We'll look at how we go and use the basic content tools to create a lesson in our next video.